Welcome to this week's deep dive. This week we have the wonderful Vicki Ostrom, who you can find on the internet as Trend Dependent and is the trend editors for Sanmar. So welcome, Vicki.
Hi, nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to come and pick your brain about our topics of each week. So this week on Promo Chat, we talked about sustainability. And while Vicki had some great thoughts out there, I'd love to talk to you bigger on this. So you've been researching sustainability as a trend for a while now. So
Mhm.
what is this is what I find really interesting is what effect has the pandemic had on that, like on sustainability as a movement, as a trend, as a necessity? Like
Mhm.
what are you seeing out there right now that you're just like, oh, this is what we need to talk about?
Mhm. I think it is the topic on everyone's tongue. And I think that's been really interesting because before COVID, it was definitely gaining speed. A lot more people were talking about sustainability a lot more often, but it was still a nice to have for a lot of people. Whereas now, I feel like everybody has just come to this place where they're like, no, this is how I want to live my life. This is how I need to live my life. And so at at once it's like a bigger conversation and it's more global. I think we've all understood how we're connected and interconnected globally with the things that we're doing and the things that affect us all, whether it's climate to the pandemic. We're all being affected in really similar ways. Which I think is shocking to people in the United States, at least, because we're always like, no, it's just the bubble of the United States,
Us and our hat
nothing
of
happens around
Canada.
us. Yeah. Um, but at the same time, the it is a huge issue, and the of sustainability, like how do I make an effort? How do I make a difference, when everything seems so out of control? And I feel like I've seen so many more people now going, well, okay, let me break it down to what can I do? Because, we've all been at home and like we can't go anywhere else. All we can do is think our own thoughts and like, you know, be solitary. And I think it's also had this effect of having people understand, well, I literally can only do what I can do right now. So what I can do is I can recycle my own clothing and I can use the resale market. You know, I cannot buy too many things because I literally can't fit them all in my house. So I'm going to have to get rid of something if I get something. And so that's a circular fashion kind of idea that now people actually get because they're experiencing it. And there's just a million little things that we're also learning about sustainability and how we can individually make a difference. And people are really doing it.
Yeah. It's so interesting too, sort of to touch on the what people bring in their houses now. And it's because like we're spending so much more time in our homes that I always think of like now what you bring into your home counts. Like it has to count on so
Yes.
many levels. Like it has to be good, it has to be safe, it has to be top quality. So do you
Yeah.
see anything happening that way? Like what do you think this means for concepts of design, just fitting
Mhm.
in spaces and quality and functionality?
Oh, it's everything. I've been doing a lot of research lately on what's happening trend-wise in our interior design spaces. And sustainability is coming up all the time. So you think you're just going to learn about like what colors are trending and what kind of furniture do I want, and it it'll go along that way, and then it'll start going back into sustainability, like, and this is a choice we've made because of it's a sustainable choice. Or um and it seems like no matter what source I'm going to for trend information, it's coming back to holistic ideas. And I feel like holistic is a word that's going to be my word now for the next year. You see emotion back here. That was
Yeah.
from 2018 that started. And
It's
now,
old.
and empathy, then we've moved into empathy. Everyone's talking about empathy, which is very, very important. But I've increasingly in the last couple of weeks here come across holistic. And I really do love it because I think we are thinking about so much more of our lives holistically, like our wellness is not just our physical health. Like, oh, I have to physically get better so that I don't have a heart attack or get cancer or something. It's like, well, I need my mental health to be well, so because that's affected to my physical body. And part of my mental wellness is also my spiritual wellness. So what's going on there? And, we're suddenly realizing we can't just do one thing in order to feel better. It's really everything all together. And so when you think about your interior space of your home, you're also thinking about, okay, well, all of that well-being, which is what we're calling it now, is coming from my home as well. So like organization will help me feel like I'm in control because I'm here all the time. So we're seeing this huge movement toward organization within the home. And like, do I have those things I need, to keep my kitchen organized and my bathroom organized and my living room and my dining room, and there's a lot of opportunities, in the promotional products industry to maybe produce products that are not normally in our wheelhouse, like have we ever done a lot of kitchen container products? Probably not. I mean, other than tumblers or something like that, I don't think we've really gotten a lot into containers that would put food in for our kitchen, but maybe we should now. And, maybe we should be looking more at storage solutions that are useful in the home, um, because that's where we are and that's where we need a bag, maybe more than we
Yes.
need to go somewhere with a bag, So I think it is changing. We're changing the way we live within our homes, and in order to gain control, because holistically it's part of our wellness
Yeah.
too,
I think as well, like personal organization too, because like think of like travel organizers. Like travel isn't out, but
Mhm.
now if you're going out somewhere, you got to have it all with you.
Yeah.
And so because you're not going to pop into a store because that's harder to do. Like,
Uh-huh.
in Ontario right now, like we're under shutdown. So,
Mhm.
I can't just pop into a store. Most of the time I have to plan ahead with curbside. So, you know, am I like for bags, am I carrying everything that's needed? Like for
Right.
do I have power banks? Do I have like anything for being on the go or even just, you know, you're seeing a lot I'm seeing a lot of like combined things. So
Yes.
this pouch holds your mask and a
Mhm.
specialist key and has a pocket for your phone. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, right?
Yeah. And that's the future of design, and it should be. It's amazing. It's just this, adaptable design. Like, how many ways can this transform into five different things that I could use it for? And that way it's more sustainable too, because I don't use it for one use only and then store it and then think, why do I have five of these one use things? I'm going to get rid of them. It's like, no, this thing does a lot for me. I can travel with it or I can use it at home, you know? Um,
And then as
and
well, like
yeah,
for sustainability, is that you get rid of single use items. Like it's got to have a functionality beyond the, like, this is an easy one, but straw. Like, so
yeah,
you've got your travel straw and you've got your cleaning kit for it.
yeah.
And yeah. And so how do you tie in like what's your own to that? So, and how, because one of the things I found and was really shocked at, but understandably so, at the beginning of the pandemic, we went from this movement of let's get rid of single use plastic, let's be conscientious, to you better have only touched it once. That mask needs to be thrown out. We've got
Yeah,
gloves and everything. So we went from don't dispose anything to get rid of it.
yeah, because it might not be safe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So
But
so what do you see for that?
well, on that point, there is now we're catching up with, and this is where I think interiors space design is ahead of the game from even clothing, is they're thinking about the antimicrobial, solutions for fabrics, and just like longevity of fabrics in a more real and sustained way, because we're using our furniture of our home 24/7 now. It's not just a little bit, like we're there all the time and our kids are there all the time and they're bouncing off the furniture and, we're sitting on it to do work on it. And, so it's just getting so much more use. So really this long life design is becoming much more integrated into furniture use and development, and specifically figuring out those antimicrobial solutions so that it stays clean longer. Or also interiors now, we're talking about, is the air safe inside of our own homes? Does that need to be cleaned? Yes, it does. So, there's a lot of drapery solutions that are starting to come about. In fact, IKEA has one that they're selling now. Not like I could say it, you can't say any IKEA names, Grunard or something like that, Grunard, that you put this curtain up and it draws impurities out of the air. And then you take it down, you wash it, and it's refreshed, and you put it back up, and it takes more impurities out of the
Oh
air.
my gosh.
So it's like a air, purifier system. And that's the reason we have so many plants as well. That's one of the main huge benefits of having plants in your home, is that they purify the air. So that's important. And, plants in general are the other thing you read about in interior design. Is everything's about biophilic design. So, how are you incorporating plants into it? There's plants in the home. We want plants on our wallpapers now. We want plants on our prints that are on, pillows and sofas. And we'd like it to be made of plant materials. We're even eating more plants. We're, seeing the meat industry going to plant-based meat products. All of your beauty products are plant forward. So like I just went to a couple of months ago, I went to a webinar that was put on by Fashion Snoops, and it was in their beauty platform. And it was about, gosh, there was at least 16, if not 20 brand ambassadors or owners of brands that were in the beauty area, and they were talking about their, best products, their newest products, or what their whole mission was. And they were from around the globe. And every single one of them didn't start with, this beauty product will like smooth your wrinkles, or it will, make you feel better in some way. It was like, this beauty product is made of ashwagandha, or this is made of, so and every product was plant forward, and they spoke about that. And then they would say, and it will, get rid of your wrinkles, or
Yeah.
it will refresh your skin,
The
or,
bonuses, you'll look
right, the
good.
bonus is that. But it was all about their mission, and also talking about like if it was ethically, harvested, and all of these kind of things. But, plants are everything to us right now.
Yeah, that's so interesting too, because like, I mean, the other aspect is it looks really good in the Zoom background. Not that
It
I have
does,
them, but
yes. And Instagram photos and
yeah. But yeah, living a more organic life, not just in theory, but in practice, or even if it symbolizes it, it's more
Mhm,
plants purifying the air. So why not?
mhm,
And
mhm,
yeah, so we were having a quick discussion before we started recording about what we're wondering what will stick with us
mhm,
from this time period to when we're older. Like I always think of my grandmother, she lived through the Depression and she was the queen of recycling just because those one things had to have multiple uses.
mhm.
So this is such a Canadian thing, but bags of milk got cleaned out and got used as sandwich bags. So
Uh-huh.
what do you think will keep on? Like what do you think will happen to us for this?
I do think that we're starting to make a lot smarter decisions about the the you know not having single use anything. Everything is needing to be adaptable and transformable now in every part of our life. So if we're going to make a purchase now, we're thinking about how many things can it do. And if it can't do a number of things, we're not going to get it. And I think that's definitely a design philosophy that's going to continue on. And it's really a beautiful thought too, because um, I read a lot about this where, people have said for a while in the design industry, they're like, if you design for a person with a disability, that product is not only going to help that person with a disability live their life better, but I can guarantee you that 12 other people are going to find it more useful as well. I mean, Nike is a perfect example. They just came out with their shoe that you just slip into,
Yeah.
on the heel slips back up. Well, that's perfect if you have a disability where you can't reach down to touch your feet. But it's also helpful to literally everyone.
Nobody
So
wants to tie their shoes anymore.
no, it's fast, it's easy, it's hygienic because we don't have to, touch germs. Like there's really pretty much any item that you would possibly design for a person with a disability is going to help everybody. I even just saw something about the space. I don't know if you just noticed this because everything's been about Mars lately, and they were talking about I think it was Russia that was thinking about actually they've opened it up to people with disabilities going into space. And they were like, it's actually the perfect place. I mean, literally about the only thing that you can't go into space is if you can't see or hear, because you have to communicate by hearing or seeing if you're in like encapsulated rooms where you can't
Yeah.
actually literally see each other. Um, but otherwise, there's a ton of people with disabilities that would be actually more useful in space than people with all of their
Yeah.
functioning limbs and everything, because it's very hard on the body. So I thought that was pretty great too. But
It's so interesting too about how like a lot of people are talking about right now is that one of the obstacles before for a lot of people who may not have been able to commute is that they weren't able to work remotely, or they
mhm,
were told that you can't, and then all of a sudden we all had to go into work remote. So
yeah,
now people who maybe weren't able, like had physical disabilities or had
yeah,
other issues, that all of a sudden, yeah, like working remote is easy. And you're seeing a lot of design like the Nike shoes go into different products of sort of, I think it's also like largely with everything that's happened in 2020 was sort of widening our eyes to the world out there.
mhm,
And so you're seeing things that make people's lives easier in so many different ways. And it's no longer seen as like, well, this is too niche, because
yeah,
like the rise of the niche right now has been
yeah,
going on for a couple of years of sort of how we respond to our environment. So it'll be
yeah,
interesting, like how sustainability and functionality really become the true drivers of products,
yeah,
because it sounds like that's what it is right now. And
yeah,
like, let's keep it going, because
yeah,
we've already seen the effects of climate change and it's not
yes,
great.
yeah. Well, and it comes down to control so much too. Like we can't, we're realizing that things feel so out of control. And so, where are the places that we can control? And what's the first thing that you can do? And right now, the first thing that we can do is what we personally can do. And then the next thing is what can we do locally? And so, literally, a lot of us can't get much further than local. And so, you're seeing a lot more local interests, like what's happening in design in my local area? Like, who's the local makers, the creators? Can I support them? What are they making? How interesting is that? And um, the the interest of um, local is being written up in every single different way. And we're realizing that, like, so on the one hand, you could look at it, well, it's also kind of insular because it's just your local area, right? But it's also understanding the beauty that was actually all around us all this time. But we've been so just literally busy and like going out, like, I'm traveling across the country, I'm traveling across the globe constantly. That's what I'm doing. I'm not where I am is just where I sleep, you
Yeah.
know? And so, but there's such a diverse, group of people and artisans around you that you can really be proud of. And so you're seeing a lot of interest in this, local movement of really rediscovering who's around you. And that is part of diversity too, which is seems counterintuitive in a way, but it's like you're understanding the specialness that is who you are and where you're from. And you're seeing this, we've been seeing ancestry.com
Yeah.
become such a big deal because people want to know the history of their family and what's special about it. um I've been watching this channel on TV called NHK, which is the Japanese, it's a kind of like Japanese PBS in a way. And they're covering all the different stories about Japan. And they have some really beautiful design philosophies. And one guy that they covered is, and again, I'm not going to say his name right, Nagoka Kenmai, and he has like 10 stores in Japan that are on his philosophy of long life design. And it's a lot like what we're doing with the resale movement in the sense of clothing per se, but he goes and looks at furniture and objects that we use in our everyday life, and he'll go to, you know, their secondhand stores, or he'll go out into the countryside and just find things that people don't want anymore. And he has such an eye for design. He'll pick out the things that actually are amazing design, and he'll bring them back into his store and clean them up. And, you know, he has all these pieces that are just beautiful design pieces that are, you know, used pieces. And then some of them he'll actually reproduce into, creating again
Yeah.
because the design has been lost, and not produced anymore, but it's just so beautiful. But one of the things that I really liked about what he did is that he went out and he found, like, this one farmer had 60 kind of larger plastic containers like you would get at a garden store with a tree in it or something, like it's not great plastic. It's not
Yeah.
pretty plastic. It's just like an efficient like bucket that a plant was in. And they had like 60 of them. He's like, "Can I have those?" And they're like, "Yeah, I don't want these when I, take them." And so he scrubbed the heck out of them. They're 40 years old. And, we are so worried about plastic right now. Like, plastic is terrible. We shouldn't be using it anymore. We should never use it. Um, but he was looking at this and he's like, this is something that exists. It's not going away. It's not, this particular thing isn't being produced anymore. So it is waste unless we use it. But it actually could be used and is very useful vessel. And so he cleaned all these up. He's selling each one for $500,
Oh
and
my
he's
goodness.
already sold three. But his point is that it isn't about what it costs to make it or what it costs like in reference to other plastic items. It is an object that exists that we can continue to use, and it's a useful vessel. And you know, we should keep it in motion, and that is the
Yeah.
way it's not garbage. So just reframe what it is. Don't look at it as purely monetary. Look at it as usefulness, and so in that way I loved it. He's calling it long life design. And, I think that's the sustainable message that we all could use, is just to reframe, going away from pure monetization of like, this is a tiny little, plastic truck that is literally probably a half a cent that someone made, or less, that was made. But is it beautiful? Is it useful? Is it fun? Could it even be an object that you put on your, cabinet, and
Yeah.
it's
It's like,
lovely
how do
because it's a
you,
pop of color?
yeah, it's kind of one of those, like, just because you're done with it doesn't mean that it's done. Like, and
Yeah.
think about it. Or even, I know a lot of people, like, a trend I see here a lot is recovering furniture.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And it's not just like, okay, so you really like the shape fits for you. It's just the color's a bit dated, or the fabric,
Uh-huh.
or the cushions need to be restuffed. And it's sort of,
Yeah.
rather than reinvesting and getting a new couch and disposing of something else, is taking what you already love and giving it new life again. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what I find so interesting, and sort of like looking at, it's kind of, you always want to think of it as for yourself. You're looking at people's potential. You're
Yes,
looking at objects'
exactly.
potential.
Yes, yes. I love it. And I think that's the best thing that's going to come out of all of this, is that we are all reassessing what's around us and thinking, can I fix that? This whole visible mending, even the fixing of it is beautiful, can be beautiful and seen as a piece of the design of it that is unique now, that can never be replicated because it's mended in this beautiful way that only has existed once.
Yeah,
So
you've
finding these
personalized it to
individual ways.
yourself.
Yeah,
And
you've
yeah,
personalized it. Yeah. It's a big thing in gifting, actually, are different kinds of, patchwork has become a trend. And so, but each culture has their own way that they do patchwork. Korean patchwork looks different than Japanese patchwork, that looks different than American patchwork quilts. They're all patchwork, but they're all very uniquely different and so beautiful in the way that they're done. And they're being used on like journal covers or uh, pillows or different things that are smaller objects that are then being gifted, and they're coming into our gifting world and kits and things like that to be very unique, like small batch items that are, how special is that? It is a gift because it doesn't exist everywhere. You have a unique item. And I think that's going to be hopefully a movement that really continues in our world of promo to have more small batch coming into our world.
Yeah. Yeah. We can only hope. It's all that matters. We, as long as you're thinking big picture and about how you're affecting the community, that's what works. And
Hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, Vicki, thank you so much for coming on. If you don't already follow her at Trendependent, I suggest you do. And the work she does for Sanmar for Trends is fantastic. So keep up the
Thank
good
you.
work. And so thank you, Vicki, for coming on. Thank you, Maple
Thank you.
Ridge Farms, for being our sponsor. And everyone, remember to join us every Wednesday at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. Just follow the hashtag PromoChat. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.